The sun was just beginning to set, painting the sky in streaks of gold and lavender, when my phone buzzed in my beach bag. I was sitting on a faded towel, toes buried in the cool sand, watching my children chase each other along the shoreline. Their laughter rose above the sound of the waves, bright and wild, and for a moment, I felt like the world was perfect, just us, the ocean, and the promise of summer. I reached for my phone, expecting a message from my husband or maybe a friend. But what I saw on the screen made my heart stop. Leave quietly. Don't tell your children. Now. No name. No number. Just those words, stark and cold, glowing in the fading light. For a moment I thought it was a mistake, a wrong number, a prank, something meant for someone else. But as I stared at the message, a chill crept up my spine. I looked around the beach, suddenly aware of how exposed we were. Just me and my kids, far from home, surrounded by strangers. I tried to steady my breathing, to keep my face calm. The last thing I wanted was to scare the children. My daughter, Lily, was building a sandcastle, her brow furrowed in concentration. My son, Max, was collecting shells, his pockets bulging with treasures. They were safe, happy, oblivious to the storm that had just broken inside me. I glanced at the parking lot, at the boardwalk, at the people scattered along the sand. Was someone watching us? Was this a warning or a threat? My mind raced with questions, each one darker than the last. I checked the message again, hoping for a clue, a signature, anything, but there was nothing. Just those 7 words, as clear and final as a command. Leave quietly. Don't tell your children. Now. I thought about calling my husband, but what would I say? That I'd gotten a strange text? That I was scared? He'd tell me I was overreacting, that I was letting my imagination run wild, but I knew deep down that this was different. This was real. I looked at my children, at the way the sunlight caught in Lily's hair, at the way Max's laughter echoed across the sand. I couldn't risk their safety. I couldn't ignore the warning, no matter how much I wanted to believe it was nothing. I stood up, brushing the sand from my legs, forcing a smile onto my face. "Hey kids!" I called, my voice as light as I could make it. "Let's pack up, it's getting late." Lily pouted, her hands still busy with her sandcastle. "But I'm not done. We'll come back tomorrow," I promised, my heart pounding. "I'll help you build the biggest castle on the beach." Max ran over, his pockets jingling with shells. "Can we get ice cream on the way home?" "Maybe," I said, glancing over my shoulder. "But we have to go now, okay?" They grumbled, but they listened. I packed up our things as quickly as I could, my hands shaking as I stuffed towels and sunscreen into the bag. I kept scanning the beach, searching for anything out of place, a face I didn't recognize, a car idling too long in the lot, a shadow that lingered just a little too close. We walked to the car, the kids chattering about their day, oblivious to the fear gnawing at my insides. I locked the doors as soon as we were inside, my fingers fumbling with the keys. I checked the mirrors, the rear view, the side windows. Nothing, no one. I started the engine, my mind racing. Should I drive straight home? Should I go somewhere else? Should I call the police? I didn't know. All I knew was that I had to get my children somewhere safe. As we pulled out of the parking lot, I glanced at my phone again. No new messages, no explanation, just silence. The drive home felt endless. Every car that followed too closely, every stranger at a stoplight, every shadow on the side of the road made my heart race. I tried to keep my voice steady as I answered the kids' questions, tried to keep my hands from shaking as I gripped the wheel. When we finally pulled into our driveway, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. I hustled the kids inside, locked the doors and closed the curtains. I checked my phone again, desperate for answers, but there was nothing. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the message. I replayed every moment at the beach, every face I'd seen, every sound I'd heard. I wondered who had sent the text, what danger I'd avoided, and what might have happened if I hadn't listened. I wanted to believe it was over, that we were safe, but deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. And as I sat there in the dark, my phone silent on the table, I realized that sometimes the scariest stories don't start with a scream, they start with a whisper. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind against the window made me sit up and listen. I checked on Lily and Max 3 times, watching their small bodies rise and fall with each breath, their faces peaceful in sleep. I wanted to believe the message was a mistake, a prank, something that would make sense in the morning, but the fear wouldn't leave me. I kept my phone on the nightstand, the screen lighting up every time I checked for new messages. Nothing. I scrolled through my contacts, wondering if I should call someone, my husband, my sister, even the police. But what would I say? That I got a strange text at the beach? That I was scared, but didn't know why? I could already hear the doubt in their voices, the gentle reassurance that I was overreacting. But I knew I wasn't. In the morning, I made pancakes for the kids, trying to keep my hands from shaking as I flipped them on the griddle. Lily chattered about her sandcastle, Max showed me his collection of shells, and for a moment everything felt normal. But underneath, I was watching, listening, waiting for something to happen. After breakfast, I checked the locks on the doors and windows, making sure everything was secure. I peeked through the curtains at the street outside, searching for anything out of place. A white van was parked across the road, its windows tinted, engine idling. I watched it for a long time, my heart pounding, but eventually it drove away. I tried to distract myself with chores, laundry, dishes, tidying up the living room, but my mind kept drifting back to the message. Who had sent it? Why? Was someone watching us? Was it a warning, or a threat? I checked my phone again. Still nothing. By noon, the anxiety was eating at me. I decided to call my husband, even though I knew he'd be busy at work. He answered on the third ring, his voice distracted. Hey, everything okay? I hesitated. I got a strange text yesterday, at the beach. It said, leave quietly, don't tell your children, now. He was silent for a moment. That's weird. Probably just a prank, hun. People send random stuff all the time. I wanted to believe him, but the fear in my chest wouldn't let go. It didn't feel like a prank. It felt serious. He sighed. Look, if you're worried, call the police, but I'm sure it's nothing. Just keep an eye out, okay? I hung up, feeling more alone than before. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? I had no proof, no evidence, just a feeling in my gut that something was wrong. The day dragged on. I kept the kids close, letting them watch movies and play games in the living room. I checked the windows every hour, watching for the white van, for any sign that someone was watching us, but the street stayed quiet. The world outside moving on as if nothing had happened. That evening, as I was making dinner, my phone buzzed again. My heart leapt into my throat. I grabbed it, hands shaking. Did you listen? Good. Don't ask questions. Don't talk to anyone. This is for your own good. No name, no number, just those words, cold and final. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Was someone protecting me or threatening me? Was I in danger, or was it all in my head? I tried to act normal for the kids, but I could feel the fear leaking out around the edges. Lily asked if I was okay, her eyes wide and worried. I hugged her tight, telling her everything was fine, but I could see she didn't believe me. After dinner, I put the kids to bed early, telling them we'd have a big day tomorrow. I checked the locks again, closed the curtains, and sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. I thought about calling the police again, but the words from the message echoed in my mind. Don't talk to anyone. This is for your own good. I felt trapped, caught between fear and confusion, between the need to protect my children and the terror of making the wrong move. That night, I dreamed of the beach, the sun setting, the waves crashing, the message glowing on my phone. In the dream, I turned to see a figure standing at the edge of the water, watching me. I tried to run, but my feet were stuck in the sand, the tide rising around me, pulling me under. I woke before dawn, heart pounding, the sheets tangled around my legs. I got up, made coffee, and sat by the window, watching the sky lighten. The world outside was quiet, peaceful, but inside, I was unraveling. I checked my phone again, still nothing. I knew I couldn't keep living like this, waiting for the next message, the next sign, the next clue. I had to do something. I had to find out who was sending the texts, and why. But I also knew that whatever I discovered, nothing would ever be the same. And as the sun rose over the quiet street, I realized that sometimes, the scariest stories aren't the ones you tell your children, they're the ones you keep to yourself. The next day, I tried to shake off the fear, but it clung to me like a second skin. I kept the kids close, inventing reasons not to leave the house. Let's have a movie marathon, I suggested, pulling out old DVDs and making popcorn. Lily Ann. Max didn't complain. They were happy to snuggle under blankets and eat snacks, but I could see the questions in their eyes, the way they watched me for reassurance. I checked my phone every hour, waiting for another message. None came. I tried to convince myself that maybe it was over, that whoever had sent the texts had gotten what they wanted, but the unease wouldn't leave me. By afternoon, I decided I couldn't just sit and wait. I needed answers. I scrolled through my contacts, searching for someone I could trust. My husband was still at work, and I didn't want to worry my sister. I thought about calling the police, but the warning echoed in my mind. Don't talk to anyone. This is for your own good. Instead, I decided to retrace my steps. I opened my phone and looked at the photos I'd taken at the beach, pictures of the kids, the sandcastles, the sunset. In the background of one photo, I noticed a man standing near the boardwalk, his face turned away, his posture tense. I didn't remember seeing him before, but something about him felt out of place. I zoomed in, trying to get a better look, but the image was too blurry. Still, a chill ran down my spine. Was he the one who sent the message? Was he watching us? I tried to remember everyone I'd seen at the beach, the families, the teenagers, the couple walking their dog. No one had seemed threatening, but then again, danger doesn't always look the way you expect. That evening, as I was making dinner, I heard a car slow down outside the house. I peeked through the curtains and saw a dark sedan idling at the curb. My heart pounded as I watched the driver, a man in a baseball cap, look at the house, then drive away. I locked the doors, double-checked the windows, and tried to calm my racing thoughts. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But the fear wouldn't let go. After dinner, I put the kids to bed early. Lily asked if she could sleep with the light on, and I didn't argue. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. I went downstairs, made a cup of tea, and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the message. Leave quietly. Don't tell your children, now. The words felt like a riddle, a warning, a threat. I tried to make sense of it, to piece together what it could mean. Was someone trying to protect me, or was someone trying to scare me into silence? I thought about the man at the beach, the car outside the house, the way my husband had brushed off my fears. I thought about all the times I'd ignored my instincts, all the times I'd told myself I was overreacting. Not this time. I decided to check the security cameras. We'd installed them years ago, after a string of break-ins in the neighborhood. I rarely looked at the footage, but tonight, I needed to know if someone had been watching us. I pulled up the app on my phone and scrolled through the recordings. Most of it was ordinary, kids playing in the yard, the mail carrier dropping off packages, the neighbor's cat slinking across the porch. But then, at 2:13 a.m. the night before, I saw it. A figure moving through the shadows, pausing at the edge of the yard. The man wore a baseball cap, his face hidden, his movements careful. He stood there for a long time, looking at the house, before disappearing into the darkness. My blood ran cold. I saved the footage, my hands shaking. I knew I couldn't ignore this anymore. I needed help. I needed answers. I called my husband, my voice trembling. There's something going on. Someone's been watching the house. I have it on camera. He was silent for a moment, then said, "Call the police, now." I hung up and dialed 911, my heart pounding. I explained everything, the messages, the man at the beach, the car outside, the footage. The dispatcher promised to send an officer right away. I locked the doors, turned on every light in the house, and waited. When the police arrived, I showed them the message. The photos, the footage. They took it seriously, asking questions, searching the yard, promising to patrol the neighborhood through the night. As they left, one officer turned to me and said, "You did the right thing. Trust your instincts. If anything else happens, call us immediately." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and fear. The kids were still asleep, unaware of the danger that had brushed so close to our lives. That night, I sat by the window, watching the street, the porch light casting long shadows across the snow. I thought about the message, about the man in the shadows, about the secrets that might still be lurking just out of sight. I realized that sometimes, the scariest stories aren't the ones you tell your children, they're the ones you keep to yourself. The ones that change everything, even if no one else ever knows. And as I watched the darkness outside, I promised myself, I would do whatever it took to keep my children safe, even if it meant facing the truth alone. The next morning, the world outside was washed clean by rain. The police had circled the block through the night, their headlights sweeping across the windows, a silent reassurance that someone was watching over us. I barely slept, my mind replaying the footage, the messages, the man in the shadows. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him standing at the edge of the yard, waiting. I made breakfast for the kids, trying to keep my voice light, my hands steady. Lily asked if we could go back to the beach, but I shook my head. Not today, sweetheart. We'll find something fun to do here. Max didn't argue. He seemed quieter than usual, his eyes flicking to the windows, as if he sensed the tension in the air. After breakfast, I called my husband again. This time, he listened. I told him everything, the messages, the man at the beach, the car outside, the police. He was silent for a long time, and said, "I'm coming home early. We'll figure this out together." Relief flooded through me, but it was tinged with fear. What if the danger wasn't over? What if the man came back? What if the messages started again? I spent the day keeping the kids close, playing board games, reading stories, baking cookies. I checked the cameras every hour, scanning the footage for any sign of the man. Nothing. The street was quiet, the world outside moving on as if nothing had happened. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. That afternoon, the doorbell rang. My heart leapt into my throat. I checked the peephole, just the mail carrier, dropping off a package. I exhaled, my hands shaking as I signed for the box. Inside, I found a small envelope addressed to me, no return address. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed in block letters. "You did the right thing, stay alert. Don't trust everyone." No signature, no explanation, just those words, as cold and final as the first message. I stared at the note, my mind racing. Was this a warning, a threat? Or was someone trying to protect me? I thought about the man at the beach, the car outside, the messages. Was he a danger or a guardian? When my husband arrived home, I showed him everything, the messages, the footage, the note. He listened, his face growing more serious with every word. "We need to talk to the police again," he said. "This isn't just a prank. Someone knows too much about us." We drove to the police station, the kids staying with Mrs. Evans next door. The officer on duty listened carefully, taking notes, asking questions. He promised to increase patrols, to check the neighborhood for any suspicious activity, to keep us informed. As we left the station, my husband squeezed my hand. "We'll get through this," he said. "We're not alone." But as we drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that the story wasn't over, that there were else secrets lurking in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. That night, after the kids were asleep, my husband and I sat at the kitchen table, the house quiet around us. We talked about the messages, about the man at the beach, about the fear that had settled over our lives. "I keep thinking about the message," I said. "Leave quietly, don't tell your children. What if it was someone trying to protect us? What if there's something we don't know?" He nodded, his brow furrowed. "Maybe, or maybe someone's trying to scare us, to keep us from asking questions." We sat in silence, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on us. I checked the cameras one last time before bed. The street was empty, the world outside still, but I knew better than to trust the quiet. As I lay in bed, listening to the rain tapping against the window, I thought about all the things I didn't know. About the man at the beach, about the messages, about the secrets that might still be hidden in the shadows. I realized that sometimes, the scariest stories aren't the ones with monsters or ghosts. Sometimes they're the ones where the danger is real, where the threat is close, where the only thing you can do is trust your instincts and protect the ones you love. And as I drifted off to sleep, I promised myself, I would not let fear win. I would not let the shadows take my family. I would keep searching for the truth, no matter how hard it was to find, because sometimes, the only way out of the darkness is to walk straight through it. The next few days passed in a haze of anxiety and vigilance. My husband and I took turns checking the cameras, watching the street, and keeping the kids close. I tried to keep life as normal as possible for Lily and Max, helping with homework, making their favorite meals, reading bedtime stories. But beneath the surface, I was always listening, always waiting for the next message, the next sign that something was wrong. The police increased their patrols, but there were no new sightings of the man in the baseball cap. The white van never returned. The world outside seemed to settle back into its usual rhythm, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were living on borrowed time. One afternoon, as I was folding laundry, my phone buzzed again. My heart leapt into my throat. I grabbed it, hands trembling. "You're being watched. Don't trust the people closest to you." I stared at the message, my mind spinning. Was this a threat? A warning? Who was watching us? And why? I showed the message to my husband. He frowned, his jaw tight. "This is getting out of hand. We need to find out who's behind this." We decided to go through everything, every message, every photo, every bit of footage from the cameras. We made a list of everyone who had been at the beach that day, everyone who had been near our house, everyone who might have a reason to send these messages. As we pieced together the puzzle, a pattern began to emerge. The man in the baseball cap had been at the beach, at the grocery store, even parked down the street from our house. He was always just out of reach, always watching. We took the evidence to the police, who promised to investigate further. They ran the license plate from the footage, checked local records, and put out a notice to patrol officers. But days passed with no answers, no new leads. The tension in the house grew. My husband became more withdrawn, spending long hours at work, coming home late and tired. I tried to talk to him, but he brushed me off, insisting he was just busy. I wondered if the stress was getting to him, if he was hiding something from me. One night, after the kids were asleep, I confronted him. "Are you keeping something from me?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked at me, his eyes tired. "No, I'm just overwhelmed. I want to protect you, but I don't know how." I believed him, but the doubt lingered. The next morning, I found a note slipped under the front door. My hands shawmed. "Okay," as I picked it up. "You're in danger. Someone you trust is lying to you. Leave town if you want to keep your children safe." I sat at the kitchen table, the note clutched in my hands, my mind racing. Was this real? Was someone trying to scare me, or was there a real threat? I thought about packing a bag, about taking the kids and disappearing for a while. But where would we go? How would I explain it to Lily and Max? I called the police again, showed them the note. They took it seriously, promising to increase patrols, to keep an eye on the house. But I could see the doubt in their eyes, the suspicion that maybe I was overreacting, maybe I was imagining things. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed, listening to every sound, every creak, every whisper of wind against the window. I checked on the kids twice, making sure they were safe, making sure the doors and windows were locked. In the morning, I made a decision. I couldn't keep living like this, waiting for the next message, the next threat, the next sign of danger. I needed answers. I needed to know who was behind the messages, who was watching us, who wanted to hurt my family. I called my sister in Portland, told her everything. She listened, her voice calm and steady. "Come stay with us for a while," she said. "Bring the kids. We'll figure this out together." I hesitated, torn between fear and hope. But in the end, I knew she was right. I packed a bag for myself and the kids, left a note for my husband, and loaded the car. As we drove away from the house, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. I looked in the rearview mirror, watching the house disappear behind us, and wondered if we would ever come back. The drive to Portland was long and quiet. The kids slept in the back seat, their faces peaceful, unaware of the storm swirling around them. I gripped the steering wheel, my mind racing with questions. With fear, with the hope that maybe, just maybe, we would find safety on the other side. When we arrived at my sister's house, she hugged me tight, her arms strong and warm. "You're safe now," she whispered. "We'll get through this." That night, as I lay in the guest room, listening to the quiet hum of the city outside, I realized that sometimes the hardest thing isn't facing the danger, it's admitting that you need help. And as I drifted off to sleep, I promised myself, I would do whatever it took to protect my children, to find the truth, to reclaim the peace that had been stolen from us. Because sometimes, the only way to survive is to keep moving forward, even when you're afraid of what you might find. My sister's house in Portland was a world away from the quiet streets of home. The city lights glowed through the curtains at night, and the hum of traffic was a strange comfort. Lily and Max settled in quickly, distracted by their cousins and the novelty of a new place. I tried to relax, to let the tension slip from my shoulders, but the fear followed me like a shadow. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leapt. I checked the cameras at home from my phone, scanning the footage for any sign of the man in the baseball cap, for any clue that would explain the messages. The house was empty, the street quiet, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. My sister Anna was a steady presence. She made tea, listened to my worries, and helped me piece together the timeline of events. "Someone is trying to scare you," she said one night as we sat at the kitchen table. "But why? What do they want?" I didn't have an answer. The police had no new leads. My husband called every night, his voice tight with worry. "I miss you," he said. "Come home soon," but I wasn't ready. Not until I knew the truth. One afternoon, as I was folding laundry, my phone buzzed again. This time, the message was different. "You're getting close. Stop asking questions." My hands shook as I read the words. I showed the message to Anna, her face growing pale. "This isn't just a prank," she said. "Someone is watching you. Someone knows what you're doing." We decided to go to the police in Portland, bringing all the messages, the footage, the notes. The detective listened carefully, his brow furrowed. "You did the right thing by coming here," he said. "We'll coordinate with your local department, but you need to be careful. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't answer the door unless you know who it is." That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the weight of fear pressing down on me. I thought about the man at the beach, the car outside the house, the messages that had followed me across miles. I wondered if I would ever feel safe again. The next morning, Anna suggested we take the kids to the park. The sun was shining, the air crisp and clean. For a few hours, I let myself forget the fear, watching Lily and Max play on the swings, their laughter bright and free. I sat on a bench, soaking in the warmth, trying to believe that everything would be okay. But as we walked back to the car, I noticed a man standing across the street, watching us. He wore a baseball cap, his face hidden in shadow. My heart pounded as I hurried the kids into the car, locking the doors as soon as we were inside. Anna saw him too. "That's him, isn't it?" she whispered. I nodded, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. "We need to go. Now." We drove straight to the police station, reporting the sighting. The detective promised to send a patrol to the park, to check the security cameras, to do everything they could to keep us safe. That night, I sat in Anna's kitchen, the kids asleep upstairs, the house quiet around me. I felt trapped, caught between fear and uncertainty, between the need to protect my children and the terror of what might happen next. I checked my phone again, another message. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. Go home. Forget what you saw." I stared at the screen, my mind racing. What had I seen? What did they want me to forget? I thought back to the beach, to the man in the background of the photo, to the way he had watched us. I remembered the car outside the house, the note slipped under the door, the messages that had followed me across miles. And then, suddenly, it clicked. I remembered a conversation I'd overheard at the beach. A man talking on the phone, his voice low and urgent. "She's here, with the kids. I'll handle it." At the time, I'd thought nothing of it. But now, the words echoed in my mind, a puzzle piece snapping into place. I realized, with a jolt, that this wasn't just about me, it was about my husband. I pulled up the security footage from home, scrolling through the recordings. In one clip, I saw my husband talking to the man in the baseball cap, their conversation tense, their gestures sharp. I watched as they exchanged something, a small envelope, quickly pocketed. My blood ran cold. I called Anna, my voice shaking. "It's him, the man at the beach. He's connected to my husband." She listened, her face growing pale. "What do we do?" "We go to the police. Now." We drove to the station, the footage in hand, the fear in my chest sharper than ever. The detective watched the video, his expression grim. "This changes everything," he said. "We'll bring your husband in for questioning. Stay here tonight. We'll keep you safe." That night, as I lay in Anna's guest room, the truth settled over me like a shroud. My husband had been hiding something that had put us all in danger. The messages, the man at the beach, the fear that had haunted me for days, it all led back to him. I realized, with a kind of numb clarity, that sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. And as I drifted off to sleep, I promised myself I would find the truth, no matter how painful. 1. I would protect my children. no matter the cost. Because sometimes, the only way to survive is to face the darkness head-on and refuse to let it win. The next morning, the detective called. "We've brought your husband in for questioning," he said. "We'll let you know as soon as we have more information. Stay with your sister. Don't go anywhere alone." I hung up, my hands trembling. I tried to keep the fear from showing as I made breakfast for Lily and Max, but Anna could see it in my eyes. She hugged me tight, whispering, "You're not alone. We'll get through this." The hours crawled by. I tried to distract myself with chores, with the kids, with anything that would keep my mind from spiraling. But every time my phone buzzed, my heart leapt into my throat. Finally, in the late afternoon, the detective called again. "We need you to come to the station," he said. "Your husband wants to talk to you." Anna drove me, her hand steady on my arm, as we walked into the police station. The detective met us at the door, his face serious. "He's confessed," he said quietly. "He was being blackmailed." My knees nearly buckled. Blackmailed? By who? The detective led us to a small room, where my husband sat, his head in his hands. He looked up as I entered, his eyes red and tired. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I never meant for any of this to happen." I sat across from him, my heart pounding. "Tell me the truth. All of it." He took a shaky breath. "It started a few months ago. I made some bad investments, lost a lot of money. I was desperate. That's when he showed up, the man at the beach. He said he knew about the money, about the debt. He threatened to tell you, to ruin us unless I paid him." I stared at him, anger and relief warring inside me. "So you paid him? With our savings?" He nodded, shame in his eyes. "I thought I could fix it before you found out, but it got worse." He started. "Ted following us, sending messages, threatening the kids. I didn't know what to do. I thought if I kept you in the dark, you'd be safe." I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. "You should have told me. We could have faced it together." He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I never wanted to hurt you. I was scared." The detective cleared his throat. "We've arrested the man. He'll be charged with extortion, stalking, and making threats. Your husband will have to answer for his part, but the most important thing is that you and your children are safe." I nodded, numb. The relief was overwhelming, but so was the betrayal. I had spent days living in fear, questioning my sanity, all because of secrets and lies. Anna drove me home, her hand warm on my shoulder. "You're stronger than you think," she said. "You protected your kids. You trusted your instincts. That's what matters." That night, I sat in the guest room watching Lily and Max sleep. I thought about the beach, about the message, about the fear that had haunted me. I thought about my husband, about the choices he'd made, about the trust that had been broken. I realized that survival isn't just about escaping danger. It's about facing the truth, no matter how painful. It's about refusing to let fear control your life, about choosing to move forward, even when the path is uncertain. The next morning, I made a decision. I sat down with Lily and Max, told them as much as I could in words they would understand. "We had a scary week," I said, "but we're safe now. And no matter what happens, I will always protect you." They hugged me, their small arms wrapped tight around my waist. For the first time in days, I felt the weight begin to lift. My husband called that afternoon. His voice was quiet, broken. "I'm so sorry," he said again. "I want to make things right." I didn't know if forgiveness was possible, not yet. But I knew that healing would take time, that trust would have to be rebuilt, one day at a time. And I took the kids to the park, letting them run and play in the spring sunshine. I watched them, my heart full of gratitude and hope. I realized that even in the darkest moments, there is always a way forward. That night, as I sat on the porch, watching the stars appear one by one, I wrote in my journal, "Sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that force you to see the truth, but sometimes the truth is what sets you free." I closed the journal, made a cup of tea, and let the quiet settle around me. I knew there would be hard days ahead, but I also knew I was strong enough to face them. Because sometimes, the only way to survive is to trust yourself, even when no one else does. Spring deepened, and with it, a sense of peace began to return. The world outside my sister's window was alive with birdsong and the first green shoots of the season. Lily and Max played in the yard with their cousins, their laughter rising like a promise that life would go on. I watched them from the porch, a cup of tea warming my hands, and let myself believe that the worst was finally behind us. My husband called every day, his voice softer, more humble. He apologized again and again, not just for the secrets, but for the fear he'd let into our lives. He promised to make things right, to rebuild the trust he'd broken. I listened, my heart torn between anger and hope. I knew forgiveness would take time, but I also knew I wanted to try, for the children, for the family we'd built together. The police kept us updated. The man in the baseball cap was in custody, facing charges for blackmail, stalking, and making threats. The messages stopped. The fear that had haunted me for weeks began to fade, replaced by a cautious optimism. I started to sleep through the night again, the nightmares receding like a tide. One afternoon, Anna and I sat in the kitchen, the sunlight streaming through the window. She poured me another cup of tea and said, "You did it, you know. You protected your kids. You trusted your instincts. You refused to let fear win." I smiled, feeling the truth of her words settle deep inside me. "I just did what any mother would do." She shook her head. "Not every mother would have been so brave." I thought about the message that started it all. Leave quietly. Don't tell your children. Now, I realize that sometimes the scariest warnings are the ones that force you to act, to trust yourself, to fight for the people you love. A week later, we returned home. The house felt different, lighter, safer, as if the darkness had finally lifted. I opened the windows, let in the fresh air, and watched as Lily and Max ran through the yard, their laughter echoing off the walls. My husband met us at the door, his eyes full of regret and relief. We hugged, tentative at first, then tighter, the promise of forgiveness hanging between us. We talked for hours that night, about the mistakes, the secrets, the fear. We promised to be honest, to protect each other, to never let silence grow between us again. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. Life slowly returned to normal. I went back to work. The kids returned to school, and the routines that had once felt so ordinary now felt precious. I found myself savoring the small moments, morning coffee, bedtime stories, the warmth of the sun on my face. I realized that survival isn't just about escaping danger. It's about choosing to live, to love, to hope, even after the darkness. I joined a support group for women who had faced fear and betrayal. I shared my story, listened to theirs, and found strength in our shared resilience. We laughed, we cried, and we reminded each other that we were not alone. One evening, as I sat on the porch watching the sunset, Lily climbed into my lap. "Are we safe now, Mom?" she asked, her voice small. I hugged her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. "Yes, sweetheart, we're safe, and I promise I'll always protect you." She smiled, her eyes bright. "You're the bravest mom in the world." I kissed her forehead, tears stinging my eyes. "I just love you. That's all." As the stars appeared in the sky, I thought about the journey we had taken, the fear, the secrets, the courage it took to keep going. I realized that sometimes, the hardest stories are the ones that force you to see the truth. But sometimes, the truth is what sets you free. And now, I want to ask you, the one listening to my story, what would you do if a single message changed everything? Would you trust your instincts, even when no one else believed you? Would you fight for your family, even when the danger was close to home? If my story moved you, please like this video. It helps more people find hope when they need it most. Subscribe to this channel for more real stories of survival, courage, and the power of listening to your heart. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. You might just give them the strength to trust themselves. With all my heart, thank you for listening. Until next time.